spearheaded by Ukrainians, which was for representation and visibility in governance, whether in the provinces or at the federal level. And while Ukrainian Canadians come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and waves, and I think our interns we've got today come from a very broad diversity of generational backgrounds in terms of the community. They're all obviously part of the same generation age-wise. We still aren't necessarily as well represented and as prevalent in Canadian structures of governance, especially the senior levels of the federal public service, as we might be, Ukrainian Canadians. I think if you look back at lists of deputy ministers in federal government departments, you're likely to see, and probably in fact, more governors general of Ukrainian background than maybe senior deputy ministers of Ukrainian background. So there's a lot of scope for people to enter either the political or the nonpartisan public service side of Canadian life, federal life, provincial life, and have a positive impact on our country and on helping to make it a better place to live for all of us, for Canadians of all backgrounds. So I think even though we might not in public perception terms be flavor of the month, it's important that our flavor be blended in to the overall dish that's being served up in terms of public policy in Canada. Obviously, I was able to serve Canada working in Ukraine, but also then working on a whole bunch of issues before then in places like Germany, in places like Serbia, on issues like fragile states, cross-cutting issues, stabilization, reconstruction, post-conflict zones. So there's, certainly I've seen that we need talent, we need different backgrounds, we need different sensibilities that can be brought to bear on solving problems and developing solutions for Canadians. As we then all emerge from the pandemic this year, and I certainly hope that that's what we'll be doing, there's renewed scope for people to get right in there. And I know that even under the current constraints of virtuality, Anna, Alex, and Matthew have been mixing it up. And no doubt future candidates will be able to do it in real life, which will be even more fun. And maybe you'll be able to get to meet your predecessors in real life as well, and exchange some views and have a few beers. So I certainly actually look forward to that in future as well, de-virtualizing. And so getting real, both real life and real issues. So that's why I think this is a great opportunity.
Well, thank you. I like that, de-virtualizing. I think that's going to be my word for the week. So yes, it's true that as Roman said, that we've managed to continue our program throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. So you'll hear from our interns a little bit more about that. But I think we've done our best working with the MPs that we have them partnered with to ensure that they do continue to have a good opportunity, as much as is possible, as safely as possible. So I just wanted to again remind people, if they have questions, there's already been one question that I've answered, that was about transcripts typed in. So if you are doing your application and I know a lot of universities are delayed in transcripts, that's fine. As long as you order them and they will arrive eventually, an unofficial transcript is fine for now, just indicating that you did get the transcript ordered, and it will eventually arrive. If you have any other questions, you pop them into the Q&A, and of course you can go to our website at ucc.ca, and I'll show that in a few minutes, just where the application form is and where there's more information. But I wanted to start with our intern alumni from last year. So Anna Bodnar, who is from Edmonton originally. Anna, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your internship experience?
Yeah, certainly. Well, good evening and dobry večer. I would just like to start off by thanking everybody who is here and taking time out of their evening to learn more about UCC's PIP program. So, like you had mentioned, my name is Anna Bodner, and I was UCC's 2020 PIP alumni. And I currently work for Minister Dan Van Dal, Minister of Northern Affairs. And to touch on what Roman talked about previously, as we move forward, making adjustments to the way we learn, the way we work during this pandemic, this program continues to provide opportunities that are needed now more than ever, truly. I mean, we have observed how difficult it currently is for recent graduates to get experience in the workforce. And I believe the Parliamentary Internship program, you do get that. I personally chose to apply for the internship in 2020 pre-pandemic because I saw it as an opportunity that grants interns the ability to work in the government sphere and really just open the door to Canada's highest level of government. And I think that's pretty impressive, and it's at a high caliber too. So during my term, I was placed with MP Peter Fonseca's office in the riding of Mississauga East Cooksville. And so, like mentioned earlier too, it truly is like a coast to coast program. I'm from Edmonton, and you'll hear later on from the other PIP interns where they're from, and it brings new perspectives to your office. So although I was working for an Ontario office, I did have my Alberta lens on. And during my internship, albeit largely a virtual one, I still was able to build my skill set and get experience working on legislative tasks, such as the Foreign Affairs Committee work. I was a part of caucus calls. I helped create some guidelines in the constituency for COVID-19. And, I worked closely with constituents too to address at the beginning a lot of the immigration concerns, citizenship issues at the start of that pandemic. So we worked around it and we made it work. And I think one of the really positive things that I was able to get is we altered my internship to what I liked most. And so I really like the Foreign Affairs Committee work. And so I was able to really take on a lot of that type of work. And so the program really opens a door for recent graduates to get a sense of what working on the Hill in the federal government is really like. And so there's a lot of different aspects of work too. There's communications, there's the legislative work, and it's just a fantastic opportunity to get your foot in the door. And so, like I said, it can also be tailored to you. And certainly for myself, I was able to work on the areas that I liked most. And so overall, it's just a fantastic opportunity to launch a career for recent graduates, and especially for those of Ukrainian descent, like Roman touched on. We get to see fellow young Ukrainian Canadians in politics, in government work, and that's pretty great to hear our perspective and our voices. And so I'm also going to stay to the end of the information session, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them then.
Great, thanks, Anna. I did want to mention, I know that a lot of people that are political science graduates like me, think about these kind of internship programs, but you have a different background. You have a sciences background. So just wanted to make that point that we are always interested in graduates coming from any perspective. We've had people that are involved in engineering, and Matthew and Alex can talk about their backgrounds as well. So it's not it's not just a political science background for people that are into politics, but we are looking for people from all sorts of perspectives to bring that knowledge, that interest to their work. So that's definitely something that we would encourage people to think about. Okay, great. Yaku Anna, well said. Next, we're going to go to Matthew Sellinger, who is one of our current interns this year. He is located physically in Saskatoon, but working with MP Daniel Blakey, who represents Winnipeg, Elmwood, Transcona. So Matthew, we will give the floor over to you for the next couple of minutes. Tell us about yourself, tell us about why you applied and what you're doing.
Right, thank you very much, Duju Diakuyu, Ihor, and Raman, Anna, and Alex, and to everybody that's watching us online and looking to indulge me here for a couple minutes and for the remainder of this this webinar. So, as Ihor mentioned, my name is Matthew. I'm working remotely in Saskatoon, Treaty 6 territory. And yeah, I think for a lot of the reasons that Anna even touched on too about, looking to get into a career, that's really why I applied. When answering the question, why did I apply? That's largely the reason, is because I was looking after I finished 6 years of studying 2 degrees in modern languages and in political studies. I was hoping to kind of get my foot in the door and kind of work towards something professionally in politics, and applying my academic political work and even my volunteer work, politically speaking, in a more practical manner. And federal politics is largely where I like, because I think for the same reasons as Anna again said, I like foreign affairs and international relations type of work. So I thought, this would be the best opportunity to do this. And I chose to do that during a pandemic because I figured, I at least want to try, at least try. There's an opportunity here to gather, to, not waste the opportunity and the experiences that I can gather throughout the pandemic. And so I applied and figured, this would be the best use of my time, and it sure has been the best use of my time. Now, the major thing that I can point to as significant for this program is, and again has been touched on, is political engagement. And I think, speaking as a political studies major, I think it's very crucial for just anybody to get politically engaged. It doesn't matter if you're in politics. And I say, like, though, if you're not a political studies major and you're a little worried about it, go for it. Don't worry about, not having the academic background. I actually think that not, having a diverse range of like academic experience in, like, say, sciences or engineering or what have you, provides unique insight into the type of work that you're going to be expected to do, especially, wherever you're located. If it's, here in Saskatchewan, as well as Anna said, she's provided a Alberta lens. I provided in some ways a Saskatchewan lens in my work as well. And so that political engagement, though, is very crucial, I think, just for any Canadian citizen to know, how the government works, policy making, committee work, outreach. This is crucial to, not even if you're looking for a political career, but any type of career, having to know what avenues to navigate and to, advocate for something, for some sort of change within Canadian society. So some of the things that I really like so far that I'm doing is the flexibility really of this program and the office work. That I've been able to apply a lot of the things I've been doing in my political volunteer work, but also broaden or expanding outward and finding new type of skills and things that I thought I could never do. And it's really empowering, I think, for those that, might be a little bit concerned whether they'll be challenged or whether they might not be able to do the work. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here to grow personally, but especially professionally, because this is political work, this is parliamentary work, and a lot of this, even if it's, unfortunately not in, Ottawa, I'm not physically in Ottawa, but there's a lot of professional work here that I'm doing here virtually. And I think, you know, with anything regarding research or writing, or if it's committee work, legislative work, I mean, that's still things that that you're doing that's helping you professionally and personally to grow as you know, a recent graduate or a young student who's looking to get your start in your life, get a start in a career. And so I've been doing a lot of work in that regard. You know, community outreach, especially. My MP has been actually very interested in Ukrainian Canadian outreach, so I've actually taken the lead on drafting a whole policy and guideline of how, you know, best they can, you know, the office, you know, for the remainder of my internship and in the future can engage with the Ukrainian Canadian community.
Excellent.
And yeah, so I think, you know, based on that, I hope that you're able to consider this seriously, and I look forward to your questions.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Well said. So I did want to point out there's a couple of questions that I've been answering in the chat as they're coming up. So I'll just review those quickly, and then we'll go to Alex Costanaco. We answered the question about transcripts. So again, whatever you could do to order transcripts from your university, and an unofficial transcript would obviously be great to include. The second question was about Ukrainian citizens studying in Canada. So because the interns are employees, it's a paid internship program, which is also another great opportunity. You become an employee of the UCC for the term of the program. So you have to have a work permit. So you have to be able to work in Canada legally, either as a permanent resident or as a citizen. It's not a great program for international students, unfortunately. There is the Canada-Ukraine Parliamentary program, which has operated for almost 30 years, which obviously isn't working at the moment with COVID, but that is a program that brings Ukrainians to Ottawa under normal times. So that might be a better option for you. The third question here was about somebody had asked if they haven't completed their degree yet, can they apply? So again, we have been clear in our program that we want applicants to be completed their studies. It's not ideal to sort of be in the middle of the degree, you're taking a break from your studies and then going to do this. We, as Anna said, we very much help our interns try to build a professional opportunity. So that's built upon having, again, we're open to college, university, post-secondary experience. Some folks have masters, and as you hear from Alex, PhDs. So we are definitely looking for people who are ready to enter professional life in that way. There are different kinds of programs. If you are a student right now, there might be some kind of a semester program or something for a couple of weeks that you could do over the summer, but our program is structured a little differently. So that's the answer to that question, but all good questions. We're going to just leave the Q&A for now, and we're going to turn to Dr. Alex Costanaco. He can tell you about his doctorate a little bit about himself. He is now in Ottawa, actually working using COVID safety rules up on the Hill in the Confederation building. So Alex, I'll turn it over to you to talk about yourself and why you applied.
Всім привіт. Hello. There are three main reasons why I applied, and I'm happy to say that the program has met all of these reasons with aplomb. The first is tangibility. So like Ihor mentioned, I have a PhD in theoretical astrophysics. You can hardly find a thing that's more abstract, more out of this world, and less applicable to real life. And a really big aspect of the internship is that it allows you to do casework, actually dealing with real people who are having real problems, be it immigration, like Anna mentioned, or in the case of my writing, which the biggest local issue is internet. Now with everyone obviously working from home because of COVID, studying from home, getting medical assistance and therapy from home, internet is crucial. And it turns out that the internet infrastructure in our writing was woefully unprepared for this. So, talking to people, talking to internet providers, talking to municipal and provincial and federal officials, and basically getting everyone on the table to actually solve these problems. And then hearing constituents say, oh, like now I'm able to talk to my grandkids, or my child doesn't have to drive halfway around town to go to school. It really scratches that itch that I was not getting with my academic career. The second aspect is you really get to learn how the system works from the inside in ways that reading about it or even following political Twitter or news doesn't really tell you about. You learn how, bills go through committee, how certain statements can learn to signify certain things, how sometimes official statement will be passed and behind closed doors, based on a couple of little things, you realize that a completely opposite thing is going to happen. And it's this accumulation of little things that helps you learn how the Canadian political system, which by all accounts is a very successful, very stable political system, functions. And for me, this is very crucial because I was born in Ukraine and I lived half my life there. I was actually in Kharkiv in 2013, 2014, during the Crimean crisis, during the invasion of Donbass, and when our mayor and governor tried to make a People's Republic in our hometown as well. I was there, and Ukraine, over its entire history, has been plagued with weak institutions, not just in the last 30 years, but you look across the entirety of history, the period during World War I, the period of Bogdan Khmelnytsky. We've always had fairly weak institutions, and the ability to learn how strong institutions function and maybe advocate for that in Ukraine is something that I love the program for that. And the third thing is, as has been mentioned by everyone, is advocacy. So I'll give you an example. My MP, MP David Sweet, he speaks out a lot on the issue of Uyghurs, the Muslim minority in northwestern China that's being persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party. I told him, hey, in Ukraine, we have a very similar issue. The Crimean Tatars are also being persecuted by the Russian occupational authorities in Crimea in very similar methods. And he was like, oh yeah, this looks similar. Let's get some messaging out on this. So now, in addition to all of his posts on Uyghurs, we have posts on Crimean Tatars. In addition to calling for sanctions against Chinese Communist Party officials, he now calls for sanctions against occupational authorities in Crimea. So there's a great breadth of opportunity to advocate for things that you hold dear, and that Ukraine holds dear, and that the Ukrainian Canadian community holds dear. And again, as has been mentioned, I am in Ottawa right now. Hopefully the COVID numbers don't rise too much, but you will be able to get an experience on the Hill physically, should you wish it, and should your office be open to that. So yeah, if being in the corridors where the decisions get made interests you at all, apply to this. You will not regret it.
Thanks, Alex. And I think as Anna learned, as you've learned, the parliamentary work continues even with COVID. Committees have all gone online. Question period happens every day. There's lots and lots going on. And in fact, I would say probably the Canadian voters are depending more on the services of their member of parliament office to, wade through all the programs that are happening to get support. So I've heard that from staff, and I've heard that from our former interns that, right now more than ever, the role of elected officials at all levels of government is really critical to helping people guide their way, through the system as they face personal challenges. So thankfully, we've got lots of questions in the pop-up. So I'm not going to try to answer all of them like I did before, but we have a very good question that was the first one here, which was, what are the selection criteria? Is it just Ukrainian community involvement? So Roman Vasyuk has been on our hiring committee, and he can talk a little bit about what the criteria we're looking for are, and then we'll get to some of the other questions as well.
Okay, yeah, thanks. No, it's not just Ukrainian community involvement, although obviously that is a factor as well. It's partly the presentation motivation in the application. It's, I guess, a sense, is this a person who will be able to fit into an active political office and has skills or beginnings of skills that could be applied? In the people who are shortlisted for the interview, we have usually on the interview panel a bunch of people who have worked on the Hill and who have worked the political scene in Ottawa. And in addition to the more strictly sort of academic or community involvement criterion, there is a kind of trying to identify the the secret sauce in candidates. You can clearly see from the three we've got that these are people who are articulate, that they're able to advocate not only for themselves, but for a cause. So these are all factors as well.
Great. There's a couple of questions here just about the kinds of application, temporary foreign workers, permanent residents, and citizens. I'm just going to answer those broadly by saying all of that criteria is on our application form. You have to have the ability to work in Canada, and this is a program for Canadians who are looking to build their career in Canada. So unfortunately, it's not a great program for international students. There are other programs, that might be better placed. This is for people who are looking to continue their extended time working with us in Ottawa versus people who might only be here for a short period of time and then going on to other opportunities. So again, if you have more specific questions, you can certainly send us a note at nationaloffice@ucc.ca, or you can complete an application, and we will look at all the applications as they come in. But we have had opportunities where people who didn't really read those criteria very carefully, spent a lot of time putting their applications in, and then unfortunately we had to disappoint them by saying, this isn't that kind of a program, unfortunately. We have a question from Chase Gargus, who was one of our Canada Summer Jobs students last year from Victoria. So hi, Chase. His question is, thank you for Anna, Alex, and Matthew for sharing your experiences. Wanted to hear more about any challenges you had with not having a political studies background, how you ever overcame them. On the flip side, were there any unique benefits to the backgrounds you did have that might have given you an edge? Thank you to you both. So I think Anna and Alex, starting with Anna first, any comments on sort of that approaching politics without a political science background?
Well, hi, Chase. Thanks for joining us. Too bad I can't see you, but it's great for the question. I think really a post-secondary background, if you have that completed degree, it teaches you to think critically, have those problem-solving skills that you can apply to the job. I think challenges-wise, it is a steep learning curve, but I think that'd be safe to say for most people, you kind of jump in gung-ho and you're just ready to absorb a lot of the information and learn all the processes that go on behind the screen, really. In terms of benefits, I think not being the typical mold of what is a political staffer does give you an edge. There is just that analytical side to coming from STEM and applying that to one of the benefits that just comes off the top of my head is my Excel skills that I didn't think would apply very well, but seem to be a great benefit. That's a small part, but there is a lot of benefits, I think, to having a unique background, a unique perspective on issues that come in. And really, like I said, it's that analytical mindset, the ability to, communicate well, to read quickly and just apply that to whatever gets thrown at you, essentially.
That's great. And before we go to Alex, I did want to mention we do have some training at this program, so we don't just throw everybody in the deep end of the pool. We have Paul Migus, who is the chair of the UCC Center, spends time the beginning of every internship session. We have both academic and kind of technical materials. Paul was worked in the government for many years, so he's one of the resources, in addition to myself and to Roman, who sort of guides our interns the first couple of days and first couple of weeks to sort of keep in touch and give some context to all the new terminology that might be coming at you. So it isn't that we just throw you entirely off untrained. But Alex, over to you. Coming from your science background, what perspectives have you had on entering the world of politics?
Yes, so the ability to analyze numbers and particularly statistics is very important because ultimately politics is about getting elected and getting reelected, and being able to look at the data of polls in the previous years of demographics and basically telling your MP and your team, hey, there's a growing Sikh community in your riding. You really should maybe have some messaging around that. Or, there's a large focus of people who have reported this issue being very important in this particular area of your riding. You should maybe go talk to them or send them a very directed mailer saying that, oh, hey, I'm fighting for you on behalf of this issue. And if you're a numbers person, this year is going to be especially interesting because the Canadian census is going to take place in May. And this is the first long form census in what, about 10 years. So there's going to be a lot of activity in the summer and in the fall, really digging into that, because it's going to set the tone for basically the nitty gritty work of offices for many years to come. And you're going to be able to be a part of that. And a numbers background will absolutely help with that.
That's a great point. Matthew and or Roman, any other thoughts? I know you're coming both from more political backgrounds, but any thoughts about what you might offer to students, advice to students that aren't coming from a political science background? Roman?
I came from a history background.
Mhm.
And, I think diplomacy and politics are largely also applied history. It is looking to patterns in the past and seeing what they tell you about what's happening now and what could be happening in the future. I'd also like to flag just one more thing. It might sound pretty obvious, but I think nobody's actually said it here, which is the goal of the program is actually for people to become Anna. In other words, you're an intern and you make an impression on people, and then a minister's office, an MP's office, a federal government department picks you up and employs you. So that I think is one of the briefest ways of describing it. Become.
It's a job training program, absolutely. And from our alumni, we have people who work for the Coast Guard. We have people who work for members of Parliament. We have people who work for the Australian High Commission. We have people who work for the Ministry of Northern Affairs. All sorts of interesting opportunities have come after this internship. And again, it's a good foundational networking opportunity as well. Okay, I think we've answered all the questions that have popped up thus far in the chat. I just wanted to share the screen quickly to go over the application form, so you should see it right now. I would again recommend that you take a look at it. It is, a number of pages. It's important to have all the parts of it filled out as accurately as possible. We have unfortunately had people who don't fill it out completely and send it in, and that's unfortunate. If you have any questions, that's what I'm here to help answer at the UCC's office. We definitely have lots of people who ask us questions ahead of time, and this is the opportunity. Oh, questions popped up. How many applications do we usually get, and how many positions do we usually have? So I would say applications vary from year to year, season to season. We've had usually around 25 to 30 people, do an application. And again, it's a serious application. You're sending your transcripts. We have, full folders full of reference letters on everybody. And it does have a very high, we have a very high standard when we select, the people for interviews. Our process is usually that we pick, I would say 3 to 5 people to interview of all the applicants, depending on what the applications look like. We're looking, again, as Roman said, for a combination of academic excellence, community involvement, communication skills, all the rest of it as a combination, and how people kind of present themselves. We conduct in-person online interviews now with our committee, of which Roman is a part of. There's a number of other people on the committee from UCC, and we had Anna, I think you were part of the interview for Alex and Matthew, so we always try to include alumni in that as well. So it's a long, thorough interview, kind of a conversation with people about where they see themselves, how they see the role of public service. And so we'll be conducting all of that process starting in May and June, hopefully, so that we can let people know by the end of June, ideally, if they have a September internship placement. We have, thanks to Roman and Oksana's generosity with supporting the scholarship fund that we did through the UCC Trust, we have funds to have more than one intern per year. We are all curious to see whether there'll be a federal election in the spring or the fall. So if there is an election, we have taken a pause, during that time, because MPs all become candidates, and so their offices are closed. So if there's an election during the internship, we have a plan B for Alex and Matthew in terms of other work that they'll be doing. But if there is an election ahead of time, we'll take a pause, and then sort of as soon as the election is over, we would restart the internship placement. So I would say we're not limited. We've had no more than 2 people per year usually that have been selected, because we're looking for very high quality candidates. And sometimes there's an additional sort of, written or other interview just to help make sure that we're having the right kind of candidates, because you're representing our entire community, to Canada's Parliament, and on behalf of the community, you speak, to other internship programs, to other parliamentarians, and so you're really representing, I think, the best, and I think we've got the best of who our community has right now. So that's what we can tell you about that. There's another question again. So, I mean, applications, we get between 20 and 30, but that's, ranges per year. So I would say if you're at all thinking about it, go and take a look at the form, see where you have some gaps, maybe if you need to do a little bit more volunteering, or if you don't have as much on your academic resumes you think you might want. But we are fairly open to, as you saw, all sorts of candidates, very varied backgrounds. So that's what I would say in terms of encouraging folks. We have about 10 minutes left, so I just wanted to just give our guests here one more opportunity, starting with Matthew. Anything else that you wanted to add based on what you've heard people think about in terms of their applications?
Sorry, my mic was muted. Yeah, one of the things I was just thinking about that I was surprised wasn't asked is about language proficiency. Now, as somebody whose first degree is in modern languages, and I've studied multiple different languages, often I would think that some people, some potential applicants might worry about, the place for French and whether they need French. Well, I can say from my perspective as somebody who speaks French and is in a purely Anglophone office, I haven't really even used French too much, unless if it's in, translating an email, or, if I have to specifically reach out to a Quebec MP or office or whatever it might be. But if you feel a little worried about lacking French, I don't think it's too critical to worry about, because unless you're really adamant in working with a Quebec MP or a bilingual MP where they'll get a lot of, French correspondence, I don't think it'll be much of an issue. I think lastly on the point too, on political studies, just really quickly, again, it's helped me in a lot of ways where I could easily, I entered this program without too many difficulties that I think a lot of other applicants who aren't in politics would have. But I think, again, this is a learning opportunity. I mean, this is entry level work, and it's there to help you grow, and it's there to help you learn certain things. And certainly your offices aren't just going to, dish you out a bunch of stuff and say, here, do this, and not give you any context. I mean, I'm always being checked up on too. And I often, know the political side of stuff, and they still check up on me, and I think that's a very crucial part of this program, and the nature of the office work is they're not going to just, give you away. They're going to always check in and make sure that, you're doing things right and that you're at least learning. And so I think if you're not from a politics background, I
think that's as I've said to our past and current interns, it is an internship. So you're coming at, there's an understanding that you have some skills and experiences, but you're here to build skills and experiences. And I think every office that we've been working with talks to the interns as they start about what their interests are, what their skills are. Some people have different, mathematical skills, statistical skills versus social media, communications, photography, etc. And I think all the MP's offices that we've worked with want our interns to succeed, to have a great experience, something they can put on their resume, but something that builds towards, a career and a work in public service. So I think that's very much, people understand when you're doing an internship in Ottawa that you're here to sort of be trained and also sort of to take the lead where you excel. So I think that's a good point to make, Matthew, about language. Again, language is an advantage. If you know Ukrainian, you know French, you know other languages, always an advantage in terms of communicating with constituents and being able to follow what's happening in committees and Parliament without the headset on. But if you don't have it, it's something that can be learned or something that you can pick up later on along the way. Anna or Alex, any other final points to applicants?
I think for my final remarks, I would just encourage applicants to shoot their shot. It is a fantastic opportunity to have a whole bunch of an array, essentially, of jobs put in front of you and learn what you like best. I mean, there's a communications aspect, there's the legislative affairs aspect, policy, and should you get accepted, you'll learn more about that. But I wouldn't shy away. Just apply if you're really looking forward to it, and try your best.
Great. Alex, final thoughts, and then we'll turn it over to Raman again.
Yeah, just, broadly speaking, it's always good to keep your CV updated to stay in shape. So the application, it's not one of those that really requires a lot of esoteric knowledge that wouldn't be necessarily applicable to other comparable applications. So I know it looks intimidating, but when you get down to it, have your references, have an updated CV, have generally a reason why you're motivated to even be doing this, and shoot your shot. I completely echo Anna's statement.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's a pretty practical application, I would say. We do ask for a cover letter that tells us a little bit about you and what your interests are and where you see yourself in the future. That's a lot of what this program is about, sort of where you might see yourself. So there is an opportunity to showcase your communication skills as well. So we will wrap up with final words and final thoughts from Pan Roman.
Дякую, Ігоре. I think we've heard from the participants, and you've had the pitch from me. Ihor is helping everyone navigate the process. So I think not only is UCC offering this opportunity, but it's also offering some of the tools to help you prepare to take advantage of it. And I think naturally, I would hope that that every one of you who really wants it succeeds. But in fact, even taking part in the process also is an opportunity to develop interviewing skills, presentation skills, advocacy skills that will serve you well in other endeavors. So it's all part of honing different parts of your Swiss Army knife, or maybe it's Ukrainian Canadian Army knife.
Well said again, Dyakuyu. Just going to pop up on the screen as we head out of our program. Our program website is at our new fancy UCC website, ucc.ca, under programs, parliamentary internship. So when you go there, you'll see this information. And this is the news release about our application form, and you can just click on it and it will pop up. We have our information session here. We do hope to do another Anna put together a great Politics 101 seminar that we did when she was here with us over the summer and the fall. So we're going to do that, I believe, in mid-April. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but we'll advertise that on UCC's sites as well. So again, if you don't know, all the terminology that we've talked about tonight, what is a committee, question period, those kind of things. So we have a really great presentation that Anna developed that we'll run through with some of our former interns as well as our current interns to give you a presentation on bringing you quickly up to speed about how legislation works, and that might help you make a decision to put your application in as well. And great, again, thank you to everybody who's participated. I know there were about 15-20 people watching on Facebook, as well as our 25 people who registered through the Zoom app. So it's great to see that there's interest. We encourage you to put an application in. We encourage you to talk to your friends and your fellow students to put an application in as well. The more the merrier, and we always thank our current and former intern alumni for participating to help promote the program. So na dobranic. If you have any additional questions, please visit our website. My contact information is there where we can talk on further details. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Bye-bye.